Hades 2 is on the horizon and nobody's paying attention, not PlayStation, not Xbox, even Nintendo fans seem oddly quiet about it. While everyone's off daydreaming about Metroid or pining for Elden Ring, Nintendo just pulled off one of the slickest early grabs of the generation, announced in a subtle trailer drop buried in a loaded Switch 2 Direct. Now what was that announcement? Well, when it hits 1.0, Xbox and PlayStation, you're out of luck. It launches as a timed console exclusive for Switch 1 and Switch 2. The sequel to one of the decade's best indies, quietly locked in. That's why I'm here today. I've been playing the early access build on PC, and it's already outpacing the original in scope, depth, and ambition. It is gunning to top its predecessor, and I think it's potentially got the chops to pull it off. This isn't a review today, it's a wake-up call to sit up and notice. And if you enjoy it, do me a favour, subscribe, tons more Switch content on the way. Hades 2 dropped into early access on Steam in May 2024. Now I jumped in day one, racked up about 10 hours of gameplay, and though I've tracked updates since, I'm holding out now for 1.0. Or at least that was until the Switch reveal. It pulled me back in. I had to take a quick peek, and just wow, the world is massive now, towering over its scale from a year ago, which already in the first place topped Hades 1. I tell you this because the gameplay in this video today is from those PC sessions. And now I want to dive into why this is important for Nintendo and why it could be a classic in the making. So if you somehow missed the first game, Hades is a top-down God tier roguelike that basically redefined the genre in 2020. Hades 2, it's not just more of the same. It feels like a sequel made by a team with nothing left to prove, but everything still to say. You're not Zagreus anymore. This time you're Melinoë, princess of the Underworld, sister to Zagreus, and on a warpath against the literal titan of time. Now, I loved Zagreus. That mix of charm and defiance carried so much of the first game. But Melinoë, she's different. There's less swagger, more weight. She feels like someone carrying grief, purpose, and power all at once. And that makes her, to me, fascinating. Where Zagreus fought to escape, Melinoë's fight is to stop something. And that shift in tone gives the whole game this darker, more almost urgent edge. And from the very first run as well, it feels like a bigger game because it absolutely is. That is because you're not locked to a single path anymore. This time there are two. One goes down through Tartarus into that hot, shifting underworld you remember, but the other, it goes up towards the surface, Mount Olympus, and unlocking that route is no joke. It is deliberately tough. A late game challenge wrapped in a wall of difficulty that gives you something to chase. But once you do, it opens up the entire structure of the game. Every run can feel radically different because now you're deciding where to fight as much as how you fight. And leading from that, the arsenal of weapons. These weapons in Hades 2 don't just play differently, they feel like a developer flex. From the starting staff that shoots and slams, to dual blades that let you teleport behind enemies, there's orbiting magical flames, a slow, devastating axe, even a literal exosuit. It is nuts. Each one, though, introduces its own strategy, its own identity, and unlocking them isn't just a menu option. You need to gather rare materials across biomes, glass rock, cinder, bronze. It's essentially progression that rewards risk. You know, the deeper you go, the more tools to use you earn, but also the more dangerous your choices become. Personally, from the weapons, I've actually been gravitating towards the sister blades, and for me, they're just fast, sharp, and aggressive. There's an Omega attack as well. It lets you blink behind enemies and basically shred them from the shadows. Apparently, feel amazing when you get the timing down. I'm not quite there yet personally, but yeah, on top of that then, boons are back too, and there are more gods than ever. Apollo's in, so is Hestia. They don't just expand the roster either, I think they change the game. Apollo's light can blind enemies. Hestia's fire burns them over time. The whole system feels more open now. Less build X for Y result, and more let's just break this thing wide open. You know, burn damage, crit stacks, reflect loops, heavy cooldowns. It gets to the point of chaos. And that's the fun of it. One run, you're picking safe combos. The next, you're stacking damage effects like a mad scientist, and somehow you're making it work. But where Hades 2 really separates itself again is the sense of scale, and not just the run, but even the hub this time, the crossroads. This isn't just a reskin of the House of Hades, it's alive, it's functional, it's a place you return to between every run and see change. There's a hot spring, a garden, allies to train with, mentors to study under. incantations to craft with reagents you've collected from across the realms. Every upgrade, every new conversation, every small unlock, it builds momentum. It makes you feel like you're preparing for war, and well, yeah, because you are. And then speaking of accessibility, there is more good news here. If you are worried about difficulty, don't be. God mode is back, just like in the original. Turn it on, and every time you die, you get a little stronger. It doesn't trivialize the game, but it gives you a way in for people who want the story without that skill ceiling. So yeah, basically, Hades 2 is an open door. And yeah, that's just the foundation. Hades 2 keeps building from there, and all of this still growing. Supergiant's back in early access mode, patching, polishing, reacting to feedback. Since launch, they've already dropped the Olympus update, added new gods, expanded the story, refined systems. This is the same playbook they ran with the first game, but this time, everyone's watching. It's not a quiet success waiting to be discovered anymore. It is a giant in progress. Beyond mechanics, the presentation's jaw-dropping. It still looks unbelievable. The art style hasn't just returned here, it's evolved. Every frame is expressive, fluid. It's dripping with atmosphere. Melinoë's animations feel sharper. The environments shift from molten caverns to moonlit forests to towering Olympian temples, each with their own color language and mood. It's stylized but layered, like a storybook pulled into motion. Every corner packed with visual intent. Even in the chaotic combat, it's readable, clean, and beautiful. That's what made the first game so good. I am glad they've nailed it here too. And then there's the music. Darren Corby's back, and the soundtrack hits harder than ever. Quiet, eerie build-ups lead into explosive riffs. And just when you think you've heard it all, or seen it all even, the game throws something wild at you. There's a boss, for example, that sings. They're a band. Mid-fight, you're basically dodging patterns, stacking combos, while this haunting melody swells around you. It's fully voiced, it's fully in universe. Like something out of a, musical theatre fever dream. It's ambitious, it's surreal, and it actually works. But what does all of this mean for Nintendo? And I actually think a hell of a lot. For Nintendo, this is one of the smartest plays they've made in years. And they didn't even need to shout about it. With a post-launch lineup that's already looking stacked, locking in Hades 2 as a timed console exclusive is the kind of quiet power move that pays off. Pair it with Hollow Knight Silksong arriving in the same window, and suddenly you've got a 1-2 punch. No fuss, just two massive, genre-defining indies anchoring your next wave of releases. And performance-wise, I have zero concern. The game already runs flawlessly on Steam Deck, 60 FPS, smooth, sharp, stable, which means we can expect nothing less than that on Switch 2. I'd actually personally kill for full 120 frames per second support in handheld and docked. I think that would be a show of strength. And it's also the kind of title that would actually benefit from it, not just visually, but mechanically, fast combat, frame-tight dashes. The difference there, it would be felt. So overall, what I'm trying to say here is this sharp-edged sequel, I think it's going to really matter for Nintendo. Maybe not for their entire audience, but to the people who care, I think it's potentially a reason to upgrade, especially if that performance blows the Switch 1 out of the water. Now look, granted, with the first game, they did a damn good job, there's no denying it, but it did stutter occasionally. And Hades 2, we've got to take into account here, the world is bigger, it's more detailed, and that may just put real strain on the Switch 1 hardware. Now do not worry, I'll be comparing just that come launch. But I think this one, more important than many are maybe leading you to believe. So no, this wasn't a review or blind hype. Hades 2, it's already good. Obvious to anyone who's played this early access. What makes it electric though is where it's headed. Nintendo, they've got a knack for quiet wins, and this timed exclusivity might be their slickest yet. So will you be playing? Drop your thoughts below and subscribe if you enjoyed. Cheers.